Welcome, Divine. Welcome. Welcome. How are you guys doing? I have this kindness stone. I actually found this. This was one of the original soul family. My soul sister, my first one. She used to collect these stones, and they always had this written message in the inside of them. So I got this one from her, and it has engraved, kindness is engraved inside of this stone. I saw it and just decided to drop it there. Yeah, it's a little lonely though. Maybe we'll put an amethyst out there. Yeah. Wonderful. So, we talked a little bit last week. Those of you who show up on Divine Manifest, you know, we go deeper into things. I know that's going to come after this, and we're going to be talking about the ethics of spiritual psychic gifts and being a guide, which it's so funny because the humor, whenever I channel or do these readings, I watch them afterwards just like you guys, because I'm like, well, what did I say? What do I need to know? So I watched them afterwards and I was like, well, what are the ethics? Am I following the ethics? What do you mean? That sounds so official. But then it was so funny because it just dropped immediately. And that's the funny part to it. So it's more so on informing just kind of how it goes. Yeah. Wow. Informing how it goes. And I'm going ahead and shuffling the cards. And I'm going to do the DMDF, DMDF, DMDF. So we can see what's going on. I know we're a couple of days early on looking into things again. Wow. Okay. 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 Sorry guys, I have to get focused and see what's happening. Okay. And okay. Well, that looks good. Either way, so yes. So if you've tuned into Divine Manifest, then those topics are coming up. I talked about the ethics, and it's gonna be so cool as I go into it, because I did get that noting, but you know, I don't get priors like that. But it was the noting of, you know, it's not what you think. In actuality, they're built in. So it's like the ethics are built in. You're just getting the FYI so you know why what happens. Yeah. So, and also the mission of 8D consciousness, which essentially, you know, you guys are going to love to hear, because it really is just what you're doing naturally. And what else was it that we were talking about? I had actually wrote a note to the side, because again, I watch it afterwards. I was thinking, oh wow, I have these topics. Oh, and re-entry with family and friends after awakening, dark night of the soul, and being on this twin flame experience. You know, a lot of times it can cause isolation or this distancing with traditional family and friends, and just really understanding that and navigating it. So we're going to talk about that. And let's see, is there anything else? Yeah, so that'll come after this. And let's talk about the energy, because I know the reason I brought the Divine Manifest up was because we talked about the energy triggering. And when the energy triggers, allowing yourself as a divine to really sit in it and then transform it, and you really release it once and for all. And ultimately, you guys, what that is the releasing of your past. Absolutely. That's what that is. So it no longer has the ability to create the effects that it had been able to create before. So just to check in on that, because I know you felt the energy. So that's really what's been happening, and that came up in that Divine Manifest series that we talked about. And this is interesting, it's coming up too, because I keep seeing the Divine Manifest, and of course this channel is about the Golden Mission, but it was just kind of like that's the affirming of what the divine are. Because it seems to where there was a lost concept on the fact that the divine feminine and the divine masculine are master manifestors. And the whole purpose of the divine union is for them to be able to manifest each other, which is their first ability to, one, hone in on their skills and their understanding of what everything is. Because it's kind of like, hey, connect to someone within the upper realms, you know, in the spiritual world, what's identified as 5D, in that mental and an emotional space, but not in that physical spacing. That there's all these barriers and boundaries to come together in that physical spacing of things that have to be overcome to get to that space. And as you begin to do it, I get to grow your spiritual nature. I think I mentioned before, it came out in one of the videos, like dangle like a carrot. So during that time, that spiritual nature is just really heightened. And it allows the divine feminine and the divine masculine to take on their ultimate role. Their ultimate role as the alchemists, the magicians, the manifestors of earth right now, to really bring in those things that are of divine nature. Not because they're intentionally trying to do something, because it is who they are. So they hone in the energy of that. So there's so many experiences that the divine go through so that they can go within the earth and transform that experience. So it's like, oh, I went through that, so let me tell you how it should have been. This is how it should have been within the divine way of knowing. And they're anchoring in those heavenly ways here on earth. And they're developing that spiritual internal center. And that spiritual internal center, one, allows them to stand strong in being who they are, to speak that out, to act that out, to do that. You know, let me tell you how family should be. Let me tell you how this work experience should be. Let me tell you how this should be. Let me tell you how this should be. Really honing in those platform spaces within their community, within their relationships, within their the way they take in money. So they're honing in those spaces. And it sounds like we're going in a little bit, what I'm getting is we're going in a little bit of the 8D consciousness mission on earth. There, so that was a preview there. But the ultimate is that the twins are really coming together, manifesting their union, so they can also begin to manifest the things that they have always known what's right and what's wrong, but they didn't have the ability to do anything about it, they felt, or they didn't say anything, or they just kind of took it. They took it and dealt with it. And this is the DM and the DF. And it's like, no more of that. No more of that. So let's go in. Let's go in and see what's happening. You guys, it is amazing how this reading is. So you know, with the DM-DF position, so if we have the DM here starting out in the Ace of Pentacles, and you know, whenever I do this rainbow ray, it is what the DM and DF moved into to facilitate what in the present future position. So it's the Ace of Pentacles starting out, which is that perfect contentment, that felicity. That's the name of someone who came up before. So Felicity is actually a part of our collective. Hi, Felicity. So this is that Felicity position of that ecstasy, you know. They're starting out in that intelligence, you know. When you think that's an intelligence of gold, which is they're knowing, really in a place that the divine masculine energy really just hasn't been in when I've been reading the reading. So that's a different placing. So it's like, well, what what's going on with the divine feminine energy? So the divine feminine energy is the Knight of Cups, which is that graceful, not warlike, and that's that just riding quietly, and they're referring to their higher graces of imagination. So really connecting to the divine, and I'm getting not warlike in the way of that the divine feminine is not responding in the ways that the divine feminine was whenever the divine masculine would get into this space. Because before, when the divine masculine energy would get into this space, it's interesting, because kind of what's coming up is that when the divine masculine energy would get into this space of what seemed like they were in this perfect contentment spacing, it wouldn't necessarily be aligned with the divine feminine, so it would cause some issues. So they figure out a way to get in that spacing away from the divine feminine energy. So that's a connection piece that just pulled up for anybody who's in a if you look relationship wise. But that's a great positioning for the divine feminine energy, because they're not reactive. They're not trigger happy to the divine masculine energy anymore, which is good, because that energy is aligned within the divine feminine. So that's showing a balance within of the divine feminine's masculine and feminine energy, and not being triggered when we go not warlike with that Knight of Cups. And that grace is just really that power that the divine feminine energy is starting out in. So it's like, well, if we're starting out in this space, then we're okay. And even with the divine masculine energy, it's not that go off somewhere else with that felicity and that ecstasy, or getting involved in stuff that would bring it. It's like true. It's coming from the intelligence center of gold. Like, I'm really connecting alignment wise. So it's like, well, why are we even moving from this motion? Why aren't we ending here? Why are we starting here? So it's like, this seems like the ending of the reading. Well, then we shift over, and it's like, okay, so they're moving from this position to what? So the divine masculine moves from that felicity, really taking in that intelligent place, that awakened and connected to the goal, to that contentment, perfect contentment, to right here, which is the Three of Wands, which is that, when you look at Three of Wands, that's that calm figure who has their back turned to, everything, but they're looking over at the things that they have established. So just, that's kind of the same position of the divine feminine, which is in that graceful, not warlike, that the divine feminine started out in. The divine masculine moves over into. So what's going on? So it's like that calm, safety, stately position of just really looking out over everything, sturdy, back turned to anything that would affect anything, just oblivious there. Okay, turned away from the things that would normally affect. So that's still a good positioning that the divine masculine energy moved over into. And it's like the divine feminine. So then when we look at the divine feminine transferred over into the energy of the sun. So then when you look at the sun is that material happiness, that fortunate merit, that contentment. So the divine feminine did the same thing that the divine masculine did. So this is mirror, mirror on the wall. Contentment, calm, contentment. Love that. So it's like, okay, so now I see why you're showing me the ending of the reading in the beginning of the reading, because you're showing me the mirror. So it's like, okay, so now I'm seeing the mirroring of the twins. This is how it works. So I'm seeing the alignment of the masculine and feminine energy within. So this is what's going on with people. They're turning away from the stuff that would usually affect. So turning away allowed the divine feminine, not being in that warlike like position of being triggered. And interesting enough, you guys, because that did come out in Divine Manifest, and if there's anything that you need additional on support as far as that triggering, I'll add the link. But I did a download, and I'm telling you, it cracks what's going on there within the pain programming with the triggering. And then there's also something else there when it comes to communication. Look for communication, because it actually shows how that past comes in that communication, and it affects that ignoring or those delays or separation, but really understanding that the communication is really the communication of the past. So those two I will have down in the link that you can get. And I don't, I'm not trying to charge anything heavy or anything for you guys, so anything down there is definitely affordable, and of course it's worth more. So if you want to pay more, then you can always go on my site and just add some more money if you like to. Grateful on that. But it'll definitely get you to this motion. If you're not at this motion, it will get you here. So definitely look for those two in the Thinkific school that I have, in online. You'll see those, the programming, the communication. Look for those in title. And let's see, so it's like, why do they need to be in this position of balance and alignment? And we're like, okay, what is the union want? Well, this is it. When you align that masculine feminine energy within yourself, then it allows you to what? So this is what is happening. So we move down, and it's like, okay, so here comes the divine masculine, and the divine masculine is the Fool upside down. So it's like, well, what is this about? Because that's that negligence and that absence, and it's like, and that carelessness, that disruption. It's like, oh no, the divine feminine energy is like, oh no, is what I'm thinking. But that's not the case. When you look over next to that same negligent or absence, the divine feminine energy is showing up in the Page of Cups, which is that fair, pleasing, service, application, reflection, meditation. So it's like, wait a minute. But the divine masculine energy is in that negligence. They're absent, they're not, it's disruptive, it's careless. So what that means is that some of you guys, if you are in relationship with your divine masculine, that you're probably recognizing that they are communicating, you're in communication, but there's something off with the communication. Or, there's some distance that's going on, that's been going on, or whatnot, communication-wise. But there is a different effect that's happening for the divine feminine than what used to happen for the divine feminine. So the divine feminine being in this alignment and them being in that mirroring creates the divine feminine to still be in that fair and that service. Like the divine feminine is not, and is still offering, they're still okay. They're still there with the cup. They're like, okay, they're still able to be okay regardless of what is going on. So that again shows that turning away from that triggering also is showing in the present future position of the relationship. And this isn't just what's going on now, but also I'm getting that the entire motion. And the reason why I knew that, because I said, well, I can't just pull two more cards while I had the interruption, and then I just had another one right when I was getting ready to tell you. But either way, I am back. So let's look into it. So I was able to pull an additional card for the DF, the DF and the DM. So when I pulled those additional cards, I got the DM in that 9 of Wands position. And that's that strength in opposition. And, even if an attack comes, then they're ready to meet it boldly, and be okay. Just on that ready position. And then I had the DF showing up. Interesting enough, the DF shows up in that 8 of Wands. And that 8 of Wands is that, that I'm getting Felicity again. The 8 of Wands is that steady, speed towards felicity, that happiness. And it's the arrows of love. So it's like, basically what this reading came to tell us was the motion of the twins. And why it's important for the twins to be in balance, which is that harmony, which is that union. Because when that happens, and what we have here is the divine masculine energy, because you see, the divine masculine energy is not looking this way. The divine feminine is, and you can actually see, so it's like, here are these wands behind. Because when you look at the 9 of Wands and you have the divine masculine energy is holding 1, then you have those 9 of Wands behind. Well, look, I mean, then you have those 8 wands behind. Well, look where those 8 wands are coming from. It's so interesting because it's almost like, for those of you who are in relationships, it's almost like I got your back, boo. So it's creating a position where the divine feminine is no longer a part of the war zone for the divine masculine energy, but the divine feminine is the support. The divine feminine is able to actually stay in their position of steady love while the divine masculine energy is taking on and doing whatever the divine masculine energy needs to do. And whether this is people who have those in situations within their life where they're really having to make some changes, you know, whether they're having to make some changes in past relationships, karmic cycles, any of that stuff that's come about that they've had to do a lot. It's allowing the divine feminine energy as an extension of that strength. It is that unmovable, steady, you know, arrow of love that the divine feminine energy has obtained, and not going in that warlike position, because they've recognized the war was never with the divine masculine, that the war was within, that they're able to actually stay steady. And this is the stuff that came out when we had our reading last week, where they're able to stay steady and see what it is that triggered them, sit in that, handle that, and then they're noticing that whenever they get back to thinking about their divine masculine energy, that it's either comical, or they're wanting to do a funny, or it's light, or it's just no big deal, or everything just naturally moves on forward, or it's whatever. So they're not having those reactions, even if they do, you know, decide to do whatever with the relationship. They're not being offset. They're not being offset anymore. They're able to stay within their divine nature by pulling from their divine nature whenever something is going on, which is a wonderful, beautiful motion. And in doing that, they are, and it even showed that moving in that present future position, that you guys are probably feeling a little bit like, are you really like that? Are you really like that? So a lot of that stuff has probably come up as to what we saw here. And some of you where the DM energy is really in that. But understand, if they are in that, then they are dealing down here. And you stand in that space and that you're in does allow the backing for that, which has the DM energy on ready. So ready for whatever. But this is also the motion throughout life for the DM and DF. Because things will continue to move forward, but they are to move in this type of motion, to where the DF is recognizing that to support you, it's not about me having to do something, say something, be there. The DF is recognizing, in order to support the DM energy, I just gotta not be at war with it. Oh, that's it. Yeah, you don't have to do all that other stuff. You just have to not be at war with the energy. That's it. Not be at war with them, and really just balance within myself and be content in that space. Absolutely. And that will support you. That will support you, and it also is what supports the DM energy in doing what they need to do. So it's beautiful. I love this. I like the way it came out. This is good. See you guys in the next video when we talk about everything else. And yes, anybody who's not in this motion, you're having trouble with that lining up, don't worry. check out those channel downloads that'll be in the description. They will help get you right there, right there. See you guys soon. The Golden Mission. You heard that music go by Octane, didn't you? So that was a confirmation of do not worry, do not. The Golden Mission. The Golden Mission is union. Union within self, then union with others.